Guys, welcome again back to Fully Booked Meets. It's been a while, but we're back with an exclusive. You're here with myself, Mace.
Myself, French.
Myself, Andrew.
And we have a special guest. We've always spoken about, well, maybe not on the pod, maybe off the pod. We've always spoken about, them ER, them extinction rebellion, them XR. What are they dealing with out here? The public have been talking. So what do? We bring you a special someone over from Germany. Welcome, Annemarie, to the Fully Booked Meets podcast.
Thank you. Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I don't know why I'm leaning into the mic, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, there's a connection there because we're good friends with someone who's very relevant in your life, and we heard you're coming over, and we were very, very interested in getting you on the pod. I've said to French and Pox on many occasions, do you know what? I want to get someone on to speak about because, as you know, or as I've kind of, as been alluded to in the press, like people just stop oil protesters, extinction rebellion, they're all kind of, there's negative connotations that's kind of put around, especially because people are, I've got to get here, they've blocked the roads. So I was like, do you know what? I want to just get someone on the podcast to speak about the reasons why extinction rebellion or just stop oil, why they feel the need to protest the way they do. And I actually want I want it to be a conversation where we can really gauge from both sides. You're kind of representing both sides today because, as I said, it's often a negative approach, which isn't good. So, Annemarie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, as I said, you're part of XR in Germany. Some people might know it's ER, Extinction Rebellion, XR in Germany. Mm-hmm. It'll be good to know kind of the history as to how you've got into this, and what Annemarie does day to day.
Actually, I got into it because I was working as a journalist, and in 2015 I attended the Paris Climate Conference.
Okay.
I don't know, have you heard about the big climate agreement?
Not heard about the agreement, but I saw one of your posts where you speak about it. So,
yeah. So it's like...
I was lying. I did the same thing as well. Why did I say yes?
Well, the United Nations, so the UN, gets all the governments in the world together to agree on some stuff. So they agreed on climate in 2015 that we have to limit warming, heating of the planet. And I went there, and it was really mind blowing to hear the climate scientists speak about the risks we're facing. Yeah. And that conference really changed my life. And I said, okay, if the problem is this big and we really have to change the way our economy is run, let me be part of the solution.
Okay.
And then afterwards I got back. I actually quit my job.
As a journalist?
Yeah, as a journalist. I was living here in London, and then I moved to Germany, and then as soon as there was the climate movements coming up, I got engaged. I was like, this is what we need, let me get into this.
So was your specialism area of journalism to do with climate change and to do with world global warming and stuff like that? Was that your specialist area of how do you get in? How does Annemarie get to go to Paris to this conference?
I was working for a magazine writing about the energy market, just about electricity and the energy market in general. And people didn't care that much about the climate 7-8 years ago. It was just, it wasn't such a big deal. And I said, there's this conference happening, it's really important. And I kind of convinced my editors that we need to write about it.
Okay.
So then I... as a journalist, if you're interested, you can go to a lot of events and you can attend it and write about it. And I'm really glad I did.
So take me back, sorry, because I kind of just went head first. Yeah. Take me back pre-215 then. Take me back to, 210, 205. What was how much of an interest was there in what's going on in terms of climate change? And just so I'm clear, and the guys on the pod and also the listeners, so you're part of Extinction Rebellion Germany. And your focus is on, or you're more about climate change and global warming and stuff like that. And there is a difference to just stop oil, or is it all kind of under one umbrella?
I think Extinction Rebellion came on the scene basically at the same time as Fridays for Future. So obviously we know Fridays for Future was founded by Greta Thunberg, the Swedish activist, and this is really about the school strikes. So they're really independent. It's kids that are really passionate, and they say, I'm not going to go to school if the world is going down, something has to change. And then Extinction Rebellion pretty much emerged at the same time, just within a month or something. And it was a diverse group of people that founded it here in the UK. And then I think as the years went on, there was people that say we need to have this approach, but we need to go a bit more radical. And okay, we've done 2-3 years of XR now, we do these protests, okay, we got into the press, but how, like, it's not enough. And then some people founded Just Stop Oil. So it's kind of like emerged out of XR, but it's like separate.
Okay.
And then also there's, for example, Animal Rebellion, which is now called Animal Rising, and they really focus on like animal rights and reducing meat and animals. Yeah.
Okay, and what about yourself then? So from, let's say 2005, how much of a interest, or how aware was you of climate change and global warming?
Like, I kind of like vaguely aware. I think I was like really interested in like just social topics in general. And I remember even like when I got into writing and journalism, I was like, okay, it would be amazing to write about human rights and this kind of stuff. But then, I mean, where are the jobs? Like the jobs are more like with industry. So I actually worked for like an industry magazine. But I think I was like aware about nature in general. But like, you know, there wasn't like any big movements where everyday people just started becoming activists. It was kind of like I was aware, but I didn't really do anything about it. Yeah. Okay,
and then that Paris conference really changed you.
Yeah.
Literally. So the next day or the next week, you were like, and you were living in London at the time, right? And you was like, right, I need to change it.
Yeah.
Bam, like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was this moment where there was a climate scientist of the world, like really famous guys, and they presented this chart, and they said like, okay, if the planet warms this much, this much, this much, and then they showed what would happen. And one thing was, if it gets to 1.5 degree, this is generally the average warming across the whole planet. It's not like it's going to be 1.5 in one place, right? And then they said the coral reefs will die. And I was just really shocked because we're almost there. And can you imagine like this planet without, like all the coral reefs just going to die off because they're bleached and get too warm and acidic. And the fish die. The people that live in the coastal areas, they live off the reefs, right? And they really play an important role. I was just like, how can you destroy the planet so much that these features are lost? It's just like, to me, it was just like mind blowing. And the other stuff, like the rainforest will break down, the ice sheets are. I was like, how can you like do this, like as a society? Yeah.
What would you say has been the most, I guess, impactful way of protesting? Has it been a peaceful impact? I mean, peaceful protest, or does more not say so much violence, but just a bit more aggressive, should I say?
What got your attention, for example?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is the controversy that gets people's attention, you know.
But what's garnered the best results? Because we can have a protest and we can do the peaceful thing, and you can get results through, I guess, having talks and legislation, or you can do the more aggressive thing, and it's just, now we're just going to paint you in a bad light in the media, and then there's no results that get caused besides bad press. So what's actually been the best form of action?
I would say it's a combination. I think having all these different arms, having the kids protest, like the Fridays for Future, having more radical protests, and really having a combination of this, because it keeps the topic going, and you know, the kind of more radical protest disrupting everyday life is to say it's like people, like, you're super scared before you sit down on the road and block it. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, like I could also go on holidays, I could also be in a pub, I could also just chill and watch a movie. And then you're not doing this because you have nothing else to do in your life. It's like because you're desperate, and it's a strategy to achieve change, you know. And I would say as like you had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and it's like, would have just one worked? Maybe not, you know, but like if you have the combination, then the government knows as well, maybe we go with a peaceful one, because then otherwise the more radical people will also mobilize and create a different kind of pressure in society. And I think like if governments know this, then it creates like a momentum potentially for change. So I think you need a bit of the combination. I've done both. But yeah, sometimes you stand in front of a building and you're saying, okay, don't invest billions into oil, like, and they're like, okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's a good point you raised, French, because literally in the media, we've seen Just Stop Oil activists break into the Prime Minister's, not break into, but break into his grounds, go on his roof, and put black sheets down over his one of his homes in Yorkshire, and then with a massive poster. And all I've seen in the press on that is the safety of the Prime Minister, safety of Prime Ministers. Where's the security? Nothing's been focused on the message, which is what about the world? What about saving the planet? What about climate change? There's not been a message that's been drawn from that. And obviously, yes, you could say all press is good press, but the message has been lost because it's yes, exactly that.
But this is why the first demand of Extinction Rebellion has been as well, tell the truth. Like the media and governments need to declare a climate emergency and tell the truth. Just talk about the situation we're in right now. And I think this is also came from the kind of toxic press here in the UK, especially. If you got privately owned press, that they profit off of the really bad headlines and like portraying people as evil, and they're just making money off this stuff, you know. And this is why the first demand was tell the truth and get the real message out there, like how serious this is. But it kind of addresses this point that the press will do this kind of stuff.
You mentioned before about like when you're, I guess, out on the road and you're going to sit down and protest. How do you prepare? How do you prepare for that?
Actually, we tell everybody like don't do any kind of blockade or something if you haven't done a training. So we actually run proper trainings.
There's training, you know.
Yeah, there's training for this. Of
You
course.
run drills and stuff.
It's like, okay, you need to be educated about the legal consequences. Like you should be if you're a teacher or like I don't know, like you're not a resident of the country, you need to know what could happen to you, and so you can weigh the consequences. So there's legal things. There's also like how do you react when the police drags you off? You know, they do create, like if you're actually in these situations, like you actually see sometimes what the police does. You at the end, you might call it radical, but it is peaceful. You're just sitting there. Just because you have in your mind, it's normal that there's like 5,000 cars going straight. Like it's a human on a road. I mean, it's not aggressive. It's just you're just sitting there out of desperation. I see about the strategies, and like we need to take, like I don't want to defend it. Like we need to take obviously the whole society with us, but at the end of the day, it's not aggressive. And so, but the police does stuff like in Germany, for example, they do. It's called like pain grip, like so that they know which pressure points, like, and they know how to twist your arm, and they really want to.
Legal.
Yeah, but I mean, prove that. Like, so it's like, it's very interesting. So you need to be mentally as well a little bit prepared. And usually you have, like, if you're sitting down on the road, then you have, like, one supporter, for example, who's by the sidelines who can help you, this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So, because over here, it almost always feels like you wake up and 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, oh, there's no planes leaving London City Airport. They've got onto the runway. And it's like, because you got criminals with the best laid plans, you get stopped before, you got terrorists who get stopped before they can commit their crimes. But it seems like when it comes to XR, the message just stays in the camp, and it's like you got some secret code, or I don't know how do you, without giving away secrets, how do you actually, as French put, how do you prepare so that, you know, it all goes to plan? Do you do like, you saying you do a drill on training to make sure you're safe, but will you do like a, see if someone's going to rob a bank, they might, the week before, case out the bank. Do you case out like your roads? Do you like...
Yeah, of course, like, if you're thinking, for example, okay, like flights is a very important topic, or traffic is a very important topic, whatever, you try to find, okay, how can I convey this message to the public? And who's the target? Like, I mean, to tell the story, you need, like, who are the bad guys? And, like, how do I put pressure on them? And then you need to find a target. And then, I mean, in Germany, like, what we've done a lot is, like, we have a massive coal pit. You can actually see it from space. It's in West Germany. It's, like, one of the biggest coal pits in the country, in Europe, even. And so, okay, yeah, it's pretty... The coal company is the bad guy. Okay, what can we do against it? So then the aim is to get into the coal pit, for example, and block the diggers and stuff.
Is that safe?
Yeah, this is the thing as well. You need to kind of like, no, stuff can happen. So I
We're not insured for that. So.
Turn up in
actually
5-point
participated
PPE,
in this,
helmet,
like, yeah.
high vis, everything.
Yeah, you need to plan. So there's usually a secret planning group that checks what's in the area, or say your target is an airport to say like, okay, we need to. The overall message is we can't keep flying like this, or the message a lot of times was private jets need to be abolished. Like, why is there individuals flying around? If you need to see a family somewhere across the globe, fair enough, but why is there private jets? That used to be the message, or is a lot of times the message. And yeah, you just check how you can get in. Sometimes it's just a fence and you cut it and you go in. Sometimes it's not that hard. Yeah. It's more than like how, if you want to get 10 people in, it's fine. You can keep it, like if we guys made a plan, like, 5-6 people, it's easy. But if, for example, in bigger actions, you want to get 500 or 1,000 people to a secret spot, that's more difficult to organize. Yeah.
What would you say to, because I've had this conversation previously, and I said, wow, so Extinction Rebellion, they have offices. I think I had it with you, Poker. They've got like offices and all sorts. These are organized. What would you say? Whenever I've kind of listened into like an activist talking or Extinction Rebellion activist talking or kind of an interview, I'm like, these people seem like, a lot of them seem, without, for lack of a better of a term, kind of middle-aged. They're previously like high flyers. They've given up their jobs or they're retired. They have money, and it's almost like, what would you say to those that it's almost like a glorified hobby?
I don't know. It wouldn't be a bad thing if people had activism as their hobby. I think we could. We need some people on the good side. I think this is not. I know the most people I know have given up a normal life and they're living really like very, very modest lives, and they've given up careers actually to do this. I mean, the years go on. I mean, I started like in 2015, and then when was it? 19, I think 18, 19. XR really came on the scene.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a really long time. Like to just do activism, and you have no income a lot of times. So I know some people who've given up everything to be activists.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the year's 20.
There might be also other ones, obviously. Your examples, but
so the year's 2040. What does in an ideal world, what does the planet, or I don't know, Europe or wherever it is, look like to Annemarie in 2040 if what you're trying to achieve has been achieved or it's on the way to being achieved? What's happened?
That's a nice question. We never get that one.
Yeah. What has changed?
I think we need to like have a different relationship to the planet and nature in general, and then form like a bit more compassionate societies. I think the crises that are hitting us gonna be really hard, and it's like, how, like, are you taking care of your community, the people around you, the people that are struggling? Just being now in the south of Europe, I was traveling in Italy. I mean, the fields are burning, like electricity poles are just burning in the night, and you're just like wondering like what's, like, food production will break down in South Europe. I mean, it's drying out. All our fruits come from Spain. They're really having trouble. They don't have enough water anymore. So things will change massively for all of us. And I think, ideally, we have a lot more nature. We're bringing back a lot of species that are missing.
Okay.
We have insects, butterflies. We have forests that are functioning. We have a food production that is much healthier, and then ideally also like a society where we kind of take more care of each other. And it's not like, like what is this now? Like people are left behind.
So do you think these things you've identified can actually have an impact and slow down? Can it stop global warming or just slow it down? Is it inevitable?
A few more degrees are in.
Oh, so like
inevitable.
it's
I know, it's pronunciation. So it's gonna, because the emissions that we're emitting today gonna warm up in the next 5-10 years. They're just out there. What we're producing today will impact our climate in a few years' time. So it will warm more. And I mean, do you think like there's no pause button? I mean, like, you have to put pause everywhere. We're not gonna press the pause button. So emissions gonna continue. So realistically,
we're finished.
Slowing down.
That's my humble opinion. I mean, I've got quite a few questions, to be fair, because not that me having an electric car means anything, to be fair, but I just have a perspective based on having an electric car. And I sit there with Well, listen, because you've got a car which I'm not even too sure where you are down the road in terms of the process of exchanging it for something which is ULEZ compliant. But I sit there and I think to myself, like, I think there's no time like the present. I mean, I don't write this down. No time like the present, but I think the timing's really bad in terms of where we are economically. Not just me, I'm talking about absolutely everybody. And I think in the future, I think we'll look back and think, you know what, actually, I forgot his name. London,
Khan.
thank you. Sadiq Khan was onto something. I think we'll all look back and think, you know what, he was right. And I actually believe he is right, but I think his timing in general, and I think his own personal PR is shocking. I've not seen anything worse than his PR in general. But as someone who's got an electric car, and for those who I look, whether it's friends, family, who don't have cars which are ULEZ compliant, I think to myself, like, could there have been better education in regards to the implementation? Because, in fact, I kind of want to leave my personal feelings at the door, and I'll go. I think it's been poor, really poor. For someone who's got an electric car, I've gone from paying £200 a month to then paying £700-800 a month to now finding alternatives which kind of suit me. But I sit there thinking to myself, you know, I actually rent my car. I didn't buy my car. Imagine if I paid 30-40 grand for the electric car, and then was sold on the premise that, yo, you'll be paying £200 a month for your not your fuel, but your electric, and all of a sudden my costs increased by 2, 3, 4 times. I was scratching my head at one point thinking, how am I going to pay for this? This doesn't actually work for actually what I do for work. It doesn't make no sense whatsoever. So, I mean, I could go on a little bit, and I kind of want to, I don't know if there's a question within it, but I look at Shell, I look at BP, all recording like enormous profits, 4 or 5 times the amount they were the previous year. But they're taking advantage of someone like, they don't give a shit anyway, but they're taking advantage of someone like myself, but at the same time promoting we need to be eco-friendly, etc., etc. It doesn't seem like there's a real road towards us all being on the same page. And that does concern me a little bit. Yeah, it concerns me a little bit. But by way of like the country being, not the country, but us, like, I don't see us being here in 100 years, or no, anyway, you know what I mean, anyway.
You've both worked in education previously.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've all been to school.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything on climate change, global warming, or not much. You've been back into the kind of education sector since we left school, not for many years for both of you, but was there anything when you were in that sector that had changed since we were at school in terms of by way of providing insight into what's going on?
Not in the schools I worked in.
No, 100% no.
I didn't work in mainstream, so
Yeah.
it may be a bit different, possibly.
Well, what's it like in Germany? Do you know in terms of schooling? Is there a big focus on what's going on with the planet?
I think they kind of include it as in like a bit current affairs or something.
Okay.
If there's maybe a speech or something, but there's not a proper course on it now.
Because obviously publicity and education are two of the big things, and obviously, you know, we're of a certain age in the room, but what's happening now, as you said, 10, 15, 20 years, that's when we're going to feel the effects, right? So
yeah, we feel it now already, but it's going to accelerate from here, and
yeah.
it's like exponential. It's not going to go gradually. It's going to go really bad, you know.
Quickly.
And that's the thing that, and people always say, oh yeah, but humans have worked things out and everything's going to be fine. I mean, look at the science, look at the graphs, like get a bit into the science and like get a bit educated. Like this is like, and we're on the worst end of all the predictions. Things are going really badly. And we see stuff that we haven't seen, you know. And if you're saying things are going fine, things are not going fine for a lot of people. Like people are hit by cyclones in other regions of the world, you know. And just because you're sitting here in a big city driving your car and everything is still okay, like doesn't mean it's okay for a lot of other people, you know. And yeah.
Can the science be disputed?
It's a bit sad. Like
can the science be disputed?
I think science is always like debated and then peer reviewed, and I think it's like predictions have a thing where there's certain factors of uncertainty, right? But I mean it's very clear, like, and we can see now you measure ocean temperature. It's just a thermostat, right? I mean you measure the air, like the ocean temperature is one thing now that's really off the charts. It's really bad right now. It's super warm. It's really just you just measure the temperature, and so you know, like some stuff is basic science, I would say.
I was going to say, we're on a book podcast, so where could people find this information that you refer to? Like, where could they read about the temperatures, increase in temperature, the different cyclones? Where can people actually see it in black and white and take it in themselves.
From a valuable and reputable source as well.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw it in a bookshop here. The Greta Thunberg has just done a book with the climate scientist, like really renowned climate scientist. So it's like the climate book, I think it's called. I just saw it, and but it's actually serious science. Like, I mean, it's maybe not the best bedtime reading, but like, I think it looks pretty good. Like, she explains things very simply, and yeah, that's maybe a start. Yeah.
There's also, I've been informed that you also have a book as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a bit on your book and what kind of knowledge the general public can gain from your book?
Yeah, so XR UK brought out a book, a collection of essays a few years ago, which is called "This Is Not a Drill." So you can read this English version. It's really cool. It's got really interesting voices in it, and we made a German version of this. So we included some of the essays, but we also have some German adaptation. So yeah, the German one was called Wann Wenn Nicht Wir. So yeah, but the English version you can check out as well. It's called "This Is Not a Drill." It's got really interesting stuff in there. One essay that I find like super interesting is there's this advisor, like he's like a tech forecaster or something, and he gets asked by all these billionaires like, what's interesting tech and where should I live if climate change goes really bad, and he kind of talks about how they're all buying property and bunkers and like really trying to think about how to protect themselves when things go really bad. So it's kind of like how the rich try to already create an escape plan. There's like one essay where he talks about it. I forgot the name now. I'll check it out. But yeah, it's got interesting pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might be a bit of a wild thinker, but I've always kind of said, why is there so much interest in going to other planets? And I've always said, I wouldn't be surprised if in 100 years the rich take off, because this planet is burnt out, it's finished, it's done. We find whoever's got an ecosystem, another planet, then the rich will just take off and leave everyone else here. And I might sound a bit crazy for thinking
that's
that.
not far-fetched.
But I've always kind of thought, why is there so much fascination? Obviously, for obvious reason there is. We want to see something different. But at the same time, where can we live when we finish with Earth, basically?
This is the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, this earth and the nature and evolution, the things we've created. If you get a little bit into nature and you just look at like the symbiosis between like a flower and like an insect, or the little tricks that some animal, it's like mind-boggling. Like, it's really crazy. Or if you go diving or snorkeling in the ocean, the stuff you see, it's just like, this is the most fascinating place like in the universe. Like, and I think we should treat it a little bit like that. And it's also sad if kids are not really exposed to it and don't experience nature, and you're leaving a half-broken world where you can't see stuff anymore, Like, I think I don't care about rocks somewhere else, This is like a fascinating place, like, yeah.
What can, because P mentioned his like individual circumstance in terms of buying fuel and stuff, what can individuals do? Like, what can they actually do?
Yeah, it's a bit shocking to hear about your electric car.
Yeah, well,
I didn't know this.
Yeah. Anyway, so what was your question?
What can individuals do?
Oh, okay.
I think that one of the main things is like, I think you should get politically active. I think we need to change the system. It's very hard as an individual, like, you're not going to stop the climate crisis because you start recycling or something. There's some stuff you should do because it makes sense, and it's better to drive electric, I would say, than to burn oil in your car. I think that's better, but you should get politically active, get educated, think about which cause you want to support and not. And then, I think, like, ideally think about, like a bit like detoxifying your life, maybe don't eat really bad stuff, don't put a lot of chemicals in your house, and, like, think about the oil, the carbon emissions, the flying. Like, really think about, like, how can you have a healthy life? And I think it goes beyond, I think obviously the big things is the diet, flying, like transport, and electricity, heating, housing. Yeah.
But do you think these things come at an additional expense?
Unfortunately, a lot of times.
And there's not everyone has access to funds to be able to.
Yeah. But it's also, I think everybody needs, like, we need to change how we live, but we need to also point out to the ones who are like really the big carbon emitters, and it's not like a lady living across the road, like saving her, like how most people live, like really kind of modest and trying to not waste food, and like, and the big carbon emitters are the ones with the private planes, jetting around the world, like having 5 cars, and there's a lot of people like that, and they're actually the ones that really need to step on the gas pedal, and we shouldn't point to each other and be like, but you're still doing this and you still, that's not going to help us. It's more like about forming community and rising up a little bit and saying like, okay, how do we do like heating for London that's cheap for everyone, and how can we profit off the energy that's generated, and kind of thinking about more like community solutions. I think that would be, it's harder to organize, but.
In your heart of heart, do you think world governments really want change? And I say that to say this. I'll take something as basic as a pack of cigarettes. There's messages on the box of a cigarette showing someone's lungs or teeth or gums, but then retailers, like, they're still allowed to, retailers can still sell cigarettes. Importation of cigarettes can still occur. If you really wanted to stop it, you just say, okay, that's it. Cigarettes can no longer be sold, or that's it. No more.
I look at food and I thought about this again. Away from the car. Obviously, I'm vegetarian, and I think a couple of days ago I went into Sainsbury's and I ended up picking some like corn sausages or something like that. And I sit there and I think to myself, all that's happening is there's just like a lot of transition taking place where companies are going from selling things which are non-vegan, meat, chicken, etc., and they're just placing themselves on both sides of the fence where they can sell both. Mm-hmm. Corn sausages, I have no idea, but I don't think that's good for you. I'm just eating it out of convenience. I don't even know, what's the other one? They sell it in McDonald's as the replacement.
Like veggie burger or something.
There's the brand. I forget the name of the brand anyway.
Beyond Burger.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you need a scientist to tell you whether this is good or bad. I'm telling you, Beyond Burger is not good for you. I don't need to read the packaging. I just know it's not good for you. Yeah. And all people are doing is just positioning themselves on both sides of the fence. And given time, once they're ready, but once companies have positioned themselves, then everyone's going to, we're vegan, everyone's going to get their flowers out and all that type of stuff, and I guess we're just going to go in that direction. But I just don't think either the country, the world, are ready for that, and which is the reason why I think there's been a real slow transition into it. Because I sit and I think to myself, like, surely the implementation could have been done better in terms of the education, because we're sitting at, and I've kind of said this already, but I don't know when the deadline is for ULEZ and when people need to change over, but that is fast approaching. They're talking about extending it. But had everyone been better educated, we wouldn't have this problem whatsoever. And then I also sit there and I think to myself, like, because you mentioned a point in regards to Rishi Sunak, and a lot of the stuff on the radio was, are like a lot of people calling like in support of this should have happened. But the point was being made is, are politicians fair game or whatever the term is? And obviously, no, they are, because they put us in this position, and some of them are profiteering of this type of behaviour, and I agree with that. Like, one, are they fair game? Not that I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not really a fan of Rishi Sunak. I'm not really a fan of what's his face as well, Sadiq Khan. But I guess, like, how can someone like myself be convinced to continue on the same path? How can I be convinced to remain an eco warrior when really my pocket's saying, "Yo, go get that petrol car and go fill up that tank"?
Well, I think like there's what's morally right, and that's why you're doing it. And I think but the thing about the politicians, this is also what really attracted me to Extinction Rebellion. The diagnosis of the problem is, no, they're not in a position to change things because they're under party pressure. They have to be re-elected. They have to be liked. There's massive lobby on them. Or like his family, like the MP, the Prime Minister's family is actually profiteering off of the new oil licenses, right? And so it's a system where, it's really hard to take decisions that are very unpopular. I mean, they don't want to. Like in Germany, like if you say, we need to slow the speed of the cars, or you need to eat less meat, like people go nuts. Like it's a very unpopular decision. And so the system's not really set up for this. So Extinction Rebellion has been saying we need to be more involved. We need to have citizens' assemblies where we, like people like us, we're in a room, we're presented with a problem, with a question, how can we cut emissions, or how can we change agriculture? And then we have experts come in, maybe even lobbyists come in, but transparent and not behind closed doors. And then we all talk together, okay, what's a good solution, what's not? And then we come to an agreement versus what it's right now, so I really like that about Extinction Rebellion. We've had some citizens' assemblies. They've helped a little bit, but the political system is slightly broken to deal with these massive challenges. Yeah.
is there ever like a sit down, because you see what's taking place yesterday, like, so the fallout is on the radio and newspapers that Extinction Rebellion or whoever did it is bad, but for the actions that have taken place, which in some respect I'm all for, you know what I mean? When I went to South America, I saw people blocking roads and people were just very aware, you're not going about your day today. I'm sure, no, it's true, that's what I learned in 2012. They say you're not leaving the city today. I was like, cool, you know what I mean? But I got nowhere to go anyway. But like, I guess my point is, for all that's taking place in London, let's say, like, is there ever a sit down as to, okay, cool, how can we really implement change? Otherwise, what it looks like to the public or Joe Blogs is, like, people are throwing confetti over, what's his name, George Osborne, or you know what I mean? It just looks mad. It does look mad, to be fair. I might laugh, I mean, but it looks like there's a load of...
It looks comical almost. In some, because there was a name that was thrown upon it, especially with the confetti stuff. Someone called them something, but it was just not. You know what I mean? It was very like comical. The name that was thrown up. Yeah.
But what happens following that? Following the confetti, following going to Rishi Sunak's thing, like what actually happens?
But I think that's the main question. Like, you know, perspective on the problems. Like, sorry, they're sitting on a roof with a message. It was Greenpeace, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're sitting on a roof, yeah, and they have some black. Versus you're drilling in the ocean and you're pumping oil while we're in a climate emergency, and your prime minister's family is making money off of this because of the PR company that his wife has and this kind of thing I read about today. So it's like perspective, you know, and these people, like 5 people were arrested today. Fair enough. You know, I think other people, like the oil executives, should be arrested. They knew about this. They're still going on about this. And don't give me this whole energy security thing, you know, because like it's been decades. Like even I'm very young. I feel still pretty young. Like I'm still new on the scene, yeah. And even like when I was like 10 years ago, everybody was saying we need renewable energy. Where is it, guys? You know, like build renewable energy, do batteries, like do charging points. Like it's not that hard, but obviously there's like a power dynamic, people profiteering off of the current system. As you were mentioning, they're making billions in profit, the oil companies, fossil fuel companies, and that's why there's a big incentive to keep the system we have in place. But I think it's like really out of perspective. Like, I mean, 3 people doing a little stunt versus you actually drilling the ocean. And this, I think, what we should talk about. But it works. Like, the public goes with this, like, they get hyped up about this.
In regards to, I guess, the work that you do outside of, it's related to the environment as well. How do you coincide with both? Like, how do you push it together?
Yeah, over the years, then I was thinking, okay, I don't want to live like where I don't have money and I just do activism. Like, I also want to have a job. Let me do campaigning as a job. Okay. And then now I'm at a non-governmental organization, NGO, which is called Food Watch. Like, so I focus on agriculture, so better food production. And it's really about, this is my new thing, yeah, I love that you're vegetarian. So people, and I didn't know either, people don't know how destructive the meat industry is. So actually the meat industry is the biggest destroyer of biodiversity. They're responsible for 80% of the deforestation, and they use 70% of all fresh water on the earth. It's like one industry. So this is what I focus on for work now, and it goes hand in hand with hopefully doing something good for the planet.
I'm not gonna lie, all I was thinking about was the ribeye steak I had this morning. Yeah. I'm like,
I know, and it's like, this is also my question, like, okay, we got ourselves into like a very interesting situation, like economies have really accelerated, people are eating, drinking, driving, traveling around like never before. I mean, how are we going to stop this? I mean, a few activists, we need to change transport, we need to reduce flying, reduce the meat. It's like when in history have we really stopped industries? Not often. They either broke down because there was new tech, but we have never really like stopped industries. So this is why I'm also thinking, like, I mean, how are we gonna do that?
Where do you start? Like, where do you kind of focus all your attention to? Because every kind of notion or part of it has its own problems and it has its own advantages. So
yeah, for me it's like now I do agriculture because I think that's a really like win-win. You can like change the land, like if you plant trees on a field, you have hedges. Like you can store carbon, you can bring back nature. We lost so many, like in Germany, we lost 80% of the birds and 80% of the insects. It's like crazy. There's almost nothing left. Like the landscapes are empty. So it can we can. It's a bit of a win-win if we change agriculture, reduce the amount of. You can still have your steak, but just not every day for breakfast. You know?
Every day.
Once a week.
I forget what your question was. I was trying to actually answer it in my mind, and I was thinking, we're at the height of anything disposable.
Yeah.
So I don't see no slowdown, and I definitely don't see a transition. I mean, there might be transitions amongst individuals, but by way of mass, I just don't see it, you know? And I mean, we all see people on our day-to-day by way of like what we do for a living. I just like the general pop. I can't see Joe Blogs or someone else just changing what they do day in, day out. I just can't see it. You know what I mean? Never have we been in a time where technology is as good as it is in terms of intellect, AI, this, that, and the third. I think we're as dumb as we've ever been as well. So I'm being honest, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see that much change. And plus you have all the greenwashing. You have all the companies pretending to be doing something good now. And governments pretending like they're really changing, but not really. And I think that's also a massive problem for the public to understand, yeah. But everybody is talking about climate change. They are doing something, yeah. What are they really doing? And BP being so green now because 1% is like renewable energy is bullshitting you, you know? And I think that's really creating like a problem as well.
How do you fight that? Because everywhere you look now, as you said, all the companies are aligning with the green agenda, but realistically, nothing's changing. Like how does the general public not get hoodwinked?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I don't know. I think it plays into other things, right? Like alternative facts, fake news, people feeling very left behind. Like they believe the next best theory about a bad guy. Like it's like a bigger problem we're facing, right? Because you can't just. I think in the end of the day, you have to bring out the right facts. Like I think independent media is really important. People do read. People do like. They want to get good information. Like they do. You have to have that, and then I think something like what you were asking earlier, you know, having a good alternative, having something hopeful, like having a vision of a society that's better, that's giving you some kind of hope to kind of get engaged, you know.
So look, some people do want to do their bit, even no matter how small it is, right? So are there 3 tips you could give to the everyday person, 3 small tips that if the everyday person could take this on board to help to prevent climate change and global warming? What would those be?
Yeah, I think you're not gonna. I'm not gonna give you tips like, you know, start recycling or something. I think it's what I said earlier. I think you should get really don't be shy. Like get politically active. Either join a group in your area, join something like Extinction Rebellion, found your own thing, support Fridays for Future, like do something, or even found like your own regional climate group, and think about like what does my community need, like and come up with something. I think like really connecting with other people is really important, and think about how much time do I have and what can I give, because really different skills are needed. Like you guys know how to do a podcast, like this is like imagine like a podcast on climate reaching different audiences. Like it could be, or even having a day at school. Like think about how can my skills, like whatever you're doing, you can contribute something very valuable, and reach different people to get engaged. And I think my answer has to be something like somehow politically active, and then I mean maybe consider like your consumption and not just for. Oh, there's so many things you can't do, but like reconnect a little bit to the planet, to where the food comes from, you know, like, and this disposable life, like, and is this really making you happy? And I think, like for me, it was a very interesting journey to try to, like, learn again about nature, and I reduced step by step. You know, I tried to fly as little as possible. I stopped eating meat, like I got secondhand clothing, like I'm not perfect at all, you know, like, but it's a little bit like thinking about this stuff. And for me, it's like about, even as an individual, you can have really like big political impact. Don't doubt it. Like I did something else before, and I just changed my job. I did climate activism on the side, and I'm doing a different job now, and I'm doing lawsuits against like big corporations. I'm coming up with campaigns, and other people can do this too. You can be like super powerful if you want to do something good. Yeah.
Can I ask, how has that affected your, I guess, not to say you have to talk about your personal life, but things with friends that may still be living a certain way or having a certain lifestyle? Like, has there been challenges?
I really annoyed my boyfriend about it's like a bit of a clash. Yeah, okay, I don't eat meat, and I researched the whole industry, so I'm looking at all the animal suffering, for example, and the way they are killed, like the methods and how many thousands of it. So I look at this at work, like, and it's like really like it's really emotional, you know, like to see it and try to change it. And somebody is just like enjoying their food, and then I'm a bit like preachy and annoying, maybe. Yeah. So but other than that, I get a lot of support. I think I feel like people are proud of me. Like I feel like my parents are proud of me, my brothers, my friends. Like I think people feel like it's great what you're doing. Yeah.
It's just your boyfriend that
no, he supports the whole thing as well. But like I think this is like, and at the end of the day, you have to. It's a bit of a philosophical question, like what you're doing, it matters a big deal, or does it not matter at all? Obviously, this individual action matters, and it has ripple effects.
Of course.
However, if you have your fish and chips, you're not going to cause the extinction of cod in the ocean. Like, you're not individually responsible for it, you know? So it's both sides. It's a bit of a philosophical questions, but keeping good relationships with your friends around you is very important.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me about, if we get into specifics, tell me about like the most kind of dangerous protest you've ever taken part in, where your health's been at risk, or maybe you've been heavy-handed or something like that. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
And where was it and why?
I have to, like, just as a disclaimer, there's a lot of people who've done, like, more actions than me. Yeah. I've done a lot of, like, press. I've supported a lot of actions. But I've taken part, there's a movement in Germany, it's called Ende. You see the coal pits as well. They block the coal pits. And now they shifted to blocking gas plants, new gas plants. So I was there last summer. Was it last summer? Yeah, last summer. And so we were in Hamburg at a camp, and then we did this anti-gas action. So we actually marched all day, like kind of like you're hundreds of people, thousands of people, and you're marching all day to the industrial site where they produce the gas, or want to. And we're walking, and the police was next to us, and then there's this one moment where you try to get to the plant, and in that moment the police just kind of went a bit nuts. So we were in a group, and they had the sticks, like the batons, the punching into the group. They had pepper spray spraying us, and I've never personally experienced this before. And
you didn't grow up in London under 18 dances.
It was really shocking to see this, right? Like they want to scare people, so it's just a strategy, right? It's just a strategy, and nobody else is there to witness it, so it's fine. There was some press there. And then like my friend afterwards, like I saw friends from Belgium who were there, and he was bleeding from the head sitting there. One person had his arm broken. Jeez. And like the people I was with, the guy, I was like, "Are you alright?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay. And he gets out his water bottle, which is this metal bottle, and it was like it was almost cut in half because they had like punched his backpack. And and the pepper spray, like that was crazy. Like it's crazy, that stuff. I don't even know how this is allowed. Legal. Like I really don't know how this. Yeah. So this was, to me, it was like really shocking.
Right.
To be
So tell me. So you go to a process like this. You come back home. You tell your other half about your experience. Like I know if my other half is something like that, I'll just be like no. Like I know it's for a good cause, but things like this, you can't risk your life almost for this cause. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how does that talk go? How does that conversation go when you're back home or back with family and you're telling your parents about what's happened?
Yeah, I think most people around me are kind of tuned in about the system of power and the state and the police, and I think it's not like the most surprising thing that the police acts this way, and in the end of the day nothing really bad happened to me. And you know what, in Germany we can still protest freely. Even I didn't get arrested that day, I left before. You can still choose, but I was like, I still left. Like that was enough for me, you know. Like you can then spend the day and they take your details, and you know you can kind of get arrested. I didn't do that. I just left. I just went on the bus, had a shower. You kind of recover. You try to process it. But I met people which was very moving. Like I did a protest in Brussels, and there was indigenous leader from the Amazon, from Brazil, and that just lost some friends. Some journalists go missing. People are shot. Like for them protesting and this destruction that's happening.
So where's this?
So these were leaders, indigenous leaders from the Amazon, from Brazil, and they were in Brussels to protest, and they were trying to influence European politics about the deal, trading goods and what, and they just like lost some friends who were protesting, you know. So it's like when you know people like this, even going into like kind of a hardcore protest here is nothing compared to what the people face in other countries with like really repressive governments. So we have a duty as well, because for example Germany is like, we produce all the cars, we produce all the coal, like we have the high consumption, we have a free state, like we have the responsibility. So and they're being shot if they do something. So it's like it's fine. That's my perspective, and it really encouraged me. But I don't want to do this every day, but like sometimes. Yeah.
What about the people that may not have the time, as you were saying, to check and do the research and become a bit more political? Is giving money enough?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. I think there's some cool organizations that when you give some money, I think they really do some good. And I've also worked on the NGO side and like with small organizations, and I know a lot of times the money is spent really well. You know, like you can definitely support people. You can, I think, even support like activists, you know, that don't have like, you have no income, like you can donate like to individuals, to organizations. Totally yeah.
Are there any big companies you want to kind of shine the spotlight on that you know that you kind of know of that are doing their bit to try and limit global warming?
Bigger companies, like famous companies.
So we know, for instance, like for people like companies like Shell and BP, it seems more like a tick box exercise, whereby, as Fokker put it very well, they're playing both sides of the fence. Are there any big companies that, you know, global brands that people are aware of, that you're aware of, who actually are really trying to, they take this dead serious and actually they're trying to put all their kind of focus on limiting and reducing climate change and global warming?
Good question. I have nothing on off the top of my head. I think there's like a lot of times it's like smaller companies that take a lot of risk, that try to do new tech. I don't know, who are working with algae or trees or new fabrics or trying to replace plastic or something like this, and then they're kind of small and unknown, and then maybe get bought up or something. No, because you know what, like this question also plays to the whole, they offset their emissions. A lot of the companies want to keep going as usual.
Pay their money.
Then they pay some money to get some carbon credits or whatever.
Yeah.
And these projects are pretty bad most of the time. They're really, like, there's been some research on this, and this offsetting, buying your way out of your production doesn't really work. So most companies I know do that, and it's not the way forward.
What about do you still work with the company that does the electrical roads? I think you was...
the solar roads. The solar roads.
Yeah, that's what this was kind of like the thing. After I was a journalist, I was writing about energy, and then I was like, okay, let me be part of the solution. So I joined a solar startup, this one. And then the idea is to get solar cells on a horizontal surface. Yeah, because there's a lot of streets, there's a lot of space, like where it's not at an angle, but flat. So I really like the idea, but it's tricky. It's tricky because like you generate less electricity. Yeah, just because the angle is not so favorable for the sun. Plus, it's more expensive. And if you say that as a startup, you're not gonna get funding. Like, so it's very tricky to bring new tech on, like, without having major backing, because it's like, so this is a little bit why I left as well. And I thought, let me maybe do more of the campaigning stuff. But I think there's definitely, and you know what, I mean, like, a lot of people are looking for meaning in their life. They're looking for doing something like something meaningful with their time. The problems couldn't be bigger. Like, you can go into solar, into wind, into new materials, like into heating. Like, there's so many jobs out there. In Germany right now, we don't have enough people to install like new alternative heating. You know, like there's so many jobs out there. Actually, I think like it's kind of hopeful actually to transform the economy. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm taking on. I'm just not hopeful. I hate to be the, bring the energy of doom and gloom. But I was thinking that there's so much. Who was saying this to me the other day? Just in regards to, there's far too much money in this world and intelligence. We have the means to change things immediately. Nobody wants to change it. Everyone's happy with the status quo. I just can't see any change. I mean, I think people can make individual change, and I think you made some really good points in regards to trying to impact maybe your community and activists and things like that. I thought these are really good points. But by way of slowing down or limiting the damage, I think the damage has been done. Yeah, the damage has been done. And it's mad because I don't want to talk about Sadiq Khan, but I think and I look at him as to the campaign for ULEZ, and I know he's not helped because he's a Labour constituent in a Conservative government, but even what he's doing in regards to ULEZ is not working, and he's not even helping himself. You know what I mean? So what chance do, what chance do the rest of us have?
You know, for me, you're right. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't really help anybody. I think you're right. I think things are not looking good for sure. But it's also like really a global awakening that we have a big problem, and I think it's a bit of a question of. I think it's very tricky, but I mean, it doesn't really like for me. If I have to decide which energy space am I gonna be in, am I gonna be like desperate, or am I like, I know the problem is really big. I'm just gonna try to focus my energy on trying to do what I can. Like, it just doesn't help me. I think you're right. I think we're pretty much fucked. I think we are. However, I'm still gonna, like, I think it's a moral obligation as a human to still try to, like, avoid suffering and try to do something good. And then I've seen it personally, how much impact you can actually have, because I think we did. And we are, as climate activists, you know, you're having maybe a little poster and you're standing, like, and you're blocking something, but you're still... You're disrupting industries at the end of the day.
He's a bit of a pessimist.
I'm definitely not a pessimist. Generally, I'm an optimist. But in regards to what I've seen, like, I just can't see it. You know, because when I first heard of, I don't know what they put in Marble Arch. I just thought, you know what?
Oh, that hill thing. I don't know.
I like this. And then when they start blocking the bridges, like, I like this. I like this a lot. Despite the fact it was disrupting my day, I thought, you know what? I got no problem. I can wait around because I like the way this is going. But I don't know, as time goes, there's a resistance being had at this moment in time, and it's not been won or lost. You know, it's just bad PR on Extinction Rebellion, and I just can't see the give and take. I just can't see any real losers.
You know, between us, we've even said, like, off camera, we've been filming for when we've been doing other stuff to do with footy, but we've been saying there are some gang shit. Like, we've said that, like, this is real gang shit. This is organised. It's not organised crime, but it's organised crime. Yeah. It's real gang shit in that, like, they just pop up. Your day is effed. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna do this. This is the cause. This is what we believe in. One of my questions, Annemarie, was gonna be, sorry, forgive me for not doing the research, but the current trajectory we're on. What year are we at the point of no return, where it's like planet Earth is no more, where people can't really sustain living on planet Earth?
Good question. I think the latest is like 2.7 degrees is unavoidable. Like, I need to research this as well, but the BBC's been reporting this, and I heard this from some. Yeah, I mean, if you think about, we're at 1.4. It's an El Nino year now, so it's like Earth has really warmed already. The thing is, like, what scares me a lot and which makes it unavoidable is tipping points. It's like a domino effect. It's
Okay.
like you tip one thing and it spins the climate system out of control. Like this is, for example, now if you look at the ocean currents, they're really changing. I mean, we're changing the ocean currents. It's crazy. And or the ice melts and you don't have the white ice to reflect, less white to reflect, and it gets hotter.
Yeah.
Like the Amazon rainforest is about, it's a bit of a tipping point right now. It's a rainforest is like a fridge,
Ecosystem.
like it's like really cooling the planet with all the water that's coming out of there, and it's now tipping into a savanna. Then it's not just you lose the rainforest, you're losing this like massive cooling system for the planet. And then you lost this, so things accelerate and go, and it's like domino stones falling. And this is what scares me most. Like this is really crazy. Man, like a few years, like we don't have like yesterday, like
Do you know what I find really interesting? So I'm just thinking as we speak. If this was like we're quite in a right-centered government, I think generally everywhere. I think had the government's been a little bit different, everyone's a bit more centered. As to the friction I was talking about, I can see some sort of inroads being made, but I think with the fight being against right-centered governments, I think generally a lot of them are centered around economics, which they all are, to be fair. But I mean, primarily, let's say conservative governments generally are, and they're just up for the fight. They ain't got no problem. They got all day, you know. And I sit there thinking to myself, actually, not if this is all Extinction Rebellion or all those type of NGOs and not companies, but organisations have got. But what else is there? Because at this moment in time, not that there isn't anything else, but this is as good as it gets, if that makes any sense.
It's about the scale, right? Like who's on the who's for nature, who's there for the climate, and how's the money? Like there's a saying like it's very, you can't save the world in your free time after school, after work, when there's full-time people destroying it, like being paid for it, you know. This is the situation we're in. Like a few kids after school will not, and this is like I tell people as well. Like you went to 2 school strikes or you went to like 2 big protests. Did you really think that's is all it takes to save the planet? Like it's gonna be a continuous battle, and it is like an absolute battle against very powerful interests. And like I think you need to be realistic and strategic about it. And I have a lot of friends, activist friends, who get like super emotional, worked up, and they're like, "But we're losing, we're not achieving something." Like I think it's like it's gonna be a big fight. Like, you know, get prepared, get strategic about it. Like, and you need funding, you need cool people, you need like people with skills, you need like strategic thinking about how to change the system. Like, yeah.
I guess my only hope, kind of sum my point up really is, or even to conclude my point as in terms of my thinking, I guess with a lot of the governments at this moment in time, who knows, the Conservatives might be out of government and another government may come in terms of like Labour or Lib Dems and what have you, and they might be on side. And I guess that's the only way I can really see the tide turning, not just in this country, but in other countries as well. But as far as things stand at this moment in time, I just can't see. I think it's in their general interest for this to continue. And I guess even with the PR in regards to it, because with the conversation yesterday on the radio, it was on LBC actually, as to is it fair gain or fair game as to someone like Rishi Sunak being targeted. The next thing is, maybe the next thing is, if someone like him is touched, because that is the next step, are you prepared to go one step further? And if you are, then there's real problems, you know what I mean? That's why I say this is as far as it gets. And if nothing's been done now, you know, where do we go? But I guess you've answered that in some respect. As to all we can do is kind of impact our local community, talk to our friends, family, and all that type of stuff.
I mean, I think in the environmental movement, the conversation is a little bit around sabotage. Is sabotage justified now? Not actually attacking people personally. I think that's always a no-go. You're never gonna win. I think you can sue the people for the ecocide or for like destroying the environment or the climate. You could try to frame them really as bad as I think they are, and then that's more the discussion. Like, do you destroy fossil fuel infrastructure? This is what people have been thinking about, I think. But yeah, in terms of the governments, I think it does really make a difference if you have a Trump or Biden. He's not great, but or Bolsonaro or what's his name? In Brazil, you know, you had like Bolsonaro, who's like the Amazon is up for grabs. Just cut it down, go for it. Or you have somebody who works with indigenous communities, try to protect it. It does make a difference which government we have. None is going to be the saving grace, but like I think some are really bad, and you don't want them. Yeah.
I've got no more questions. Well, I do have other questions, but it kind of leads to, I guess, besides environments, because I know you've done boxing before. Which is really interesting. How does that, do you still box? Do you still do anything like that?
Yeah, I started boxing when I was here in London. Only like occasionally now, just like for fitness now. I really love it. I was really into it, and it's just like
Found some clips, Belgium
Championship. I did, yeah. And it's like I learned a lot from it. It's a mental game. Like you in your head you'll think about all your weaknesses. Oh, I didn't train enough. My jab is really slow, or like my footwork is not very good. Like, and especially if you go to the ring, it's just like the adrenaline. It kind of like sucks the energy out of you. And like, so I learned like you want to be positive, and like don't focus on the negative, and like know what you have done and do your best when you're in the ring. And see, you can then do that when you're an activist as well.
The transferable skills.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
If no one's got any other questions, we've got a game that we play called Dope or Trash, where I read out a list of names of books, and it's for fun. Just based on the name only, you'll say if it's dope or it's trash.
Okay.
All right?
Dope or trash. Okay.
Yeah.
Funny.
All right, so these are all books related to environment. So I'll start with Silent Spring.
Oh, dope.
The Uninhabitable Earth.
Dope as well.
The Overstory.
Amazing. Read that one.
Okay. The Lorax.
Don't know that one.
Based on the title, would you call it dope? Would you think it's dope or trash?
Shit. Sorry.
Desert Solitaire.
What?
Desert Solitaire.
Oh, don't know about that one. I don't want to call something trash if I don't know it. I can't do
It's
that.
just a name. Flight Behavior.
Also don't know that one.
Doesn't matter. It's just
Flight
dope or
behavior.
trash.
I'm interested.
Dope or trash?
Does it, I don't know. Maybe dope? What is flight behavior?
The Sixth Extinction.
That's good. That's dope.
The End of Nature.
Dope. Yeah,
Losing Earth.
don't know that one.
Just based on the title, you don't have to have read the book.
Trash.
You playing defense.
Imagine the author that put like
But it's
months
not-
of
it's
work
not-
into the.
It's not to be taken personally.
Okay. Sorry for the author.
Watership Down.
Trash.
And the last one being the Book of Annemarie Botzki.
Dope.
Of course.
You got a good selection there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, good selection.
Annemarie, thanks. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure having you here. Do you want to tell the people where they can reach out for your socials if you want people to reach out, or even to reach out to other mediums if they want to find out more information?
Yeah, sure. I'm personally, I'm not super good on socials, but I'm on Instagram, activist_Annemarie, I think, or activist Annemarie. You will find me. And also you can write me if you have questions how to get engaged. And then other things, other things to read or what to do.
Because you mentioned earlier on we was chatting about people can get involved, they can support their local kind of climate change. Is there any specific websites that you can guide people to? I know obviously you're based in Germany, so it might be different in the UK, but any specific websites or any people to reach out?
Yeah, I think
reach out to?
maybe Google. Also, don't hesitate checking out the local XR group. There's different ones. It's just normal people. Go and meet them and see if you can support a little bit. And you don't need to block a road. You can do other things. I think Animal Rising is doing some really cool stuff, on animals and farming, industrial farming, and check out different other. Groups like Greenpeace, Enlightened, even Just Stop Oil, if you want to go a bit more blockadia,
Okay. That's been another Fully Booked Meets people. As per usual, subscribe, share the content, comments. Let us know who you want on next. Peace, we out.
Peace.
Peace.